Shalom. 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 Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Barakatah to Vegas McDowell. What's going on, Ak? If you can hear me, type 1. If you can hear me, type 1. We're going to get started in a few moments, just waiting to build up. Vegas McDowell, what's going on? Ak, how you doing? If you can hear me, type 1. Type the number 1 if you can hear me. Tonya, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. Tonya Waterman. Shalom, Yahweh Shamar Alatah Bashim Yahweh Shai. What's going on? How you doing, sis? Hope all is well. We're going to get started in a few, just waiting for more students, more brothers and sisters to log on. Today's topic, just like the title says, we're going to be discussing what the Bible says, what the Bible prophesies about the so-called white race. How the Bible prophesied the death and destruction of the white race. And we will find out why. So we're just going to give it a few moments. I also have some news articles that I will be inserting into both the YouTube and Facebook chat. That way you all can follow along with me. We're going to give it 5 more minutes. Vegas McDowell on Facebook. How you doing, Ak? Tanya Waterman on YouTube. How you doing, Akwaf? How's everything up in Canada? In Toronto? We're going to give it another 3 minutes and we will begin. Tanya Waterman, you're Tawab. No sweat, sis. I'm glad to hear that. Ayan the bar. If you do not know already, I am Officer Ashargapan, Officer of 500 of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. I will be taking over, for the most part, the Sunday classes for Canada. I would like to update you on a few things. One, Officer Ahban Ban Yahawada is now the camp leader of the entire Canada. Officer Ahban is the camp leader of Canada. He has amassed the position of camp leader. And I will be helping him conduct these Sundays classes like a good soldier of the Lord is supposed to. All right, 2 more minutes and we're going to start. In the meantime, I want you all to turn to the book of Isaiah chapter 14. The book of Isaiah chapter 14. That is where we will start this class. The book of Isaiah chapter 14. All right, guys, 2 more minutes and we will begin. Again, we're going to start in the book of Isaiah chapter 14. I repeat, the book of Isaiah chapter 14. That is where we will begin. Okay? All right, one more minute, and we will begin. Salakia. All right. So today's topic, well, first, Shalom, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Barakatam, to all the brothers out there. Yahweh Shamar Alatam, Ba'ashim Yahushai, to all the sisters out there. I am Officer Shargapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. The Israelite School of Practical Knowledge started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, and right here under commanding General YAHANNA. And since 1969, we have been on the front lines all across North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Russia, everywhere where Black, Hispanic, and Native American people are. We have been there teaching Black, Hispanic, and Native American people who they are according to the Bible. We've been teaching them that the most high power of the Bible is their God, and that God loves only them, and that the man who the world knows as Jesus Christ, in Hebrew his name is Yahweh Mashiach, he is their king. And today for Canada, Shalom Canada, today we will be going over how the Bible prophesied the death and destruction of the white race. And here we're going to learn and understand why. Now, in order for someone to receive such a harsh punishment, things have to be done. And it's not just regular things like steal someone's popsicle or dog. It has to be things on the level of atrocities, on the levels of enslavement, on the levels of stealing an identity from a people and making them forgetting who they really are. So, what I want you all to do is go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, and we are going to start at verse 12. Okay, I'll give you a few moments to get there. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. That is the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, verse 12. Okay? Now I'm going to read. It says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" So what this is saying, how we break this down to better understand, is let's first focus on the word fallen. In order for someone, something, a group of people, a system, a government, a country to have fallen, it means that they must have had been at a high state. They had to have been at a point where they were high in order for them to fall. For instance, for example, if I am walking down the street, I am 5'9", 5'10". I am 5'9", 5'10", 5 feet 9 inches, 5 feet 10 inches off the ground. Now, if I fall, I am falling from the height of 5'9", 5'10". Now here it says, "How art thou fallen?" How did I fall? How does a race of people fall? How does a system fall or fail? Now here it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven?" Now heaven, let's not be Christians or Muslims. Heaven, according to the Bible, is simply just a state, a physical condition on earth. Heaven can be rulership. Heaven can be having an abundance of wealth. Heaven can be your entire race being on top of all the other races on the face of the earth. So how art thou fallen from heaven? How did thou, we're going to figure out who this thou is, because it's talking about a person. It's talking about a race of people. So by the end of today, by the end of Isaiah chapter 14, we will understand who this thou is. Okay? Let's see, it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Now, let's not be simple and be Christians and Muslims. Lucifer here is not talking about the angel Satan. Lucifer here is talking about a particular person, a particular race of people who have thought of themselves as the son of the morning. Now, when we wake up in the morning and we look up at the sunrise, the sun is shining. The sun is so bright. You can see it piercing through clouds and trees. It begins the start of the day. The birds are chirping. So this Lucifer, was in a state of rulership. Now, we should know that nowhere in the Bible was Satan ever in a state of rulership. So Lucifer cannot be associated with Satan. So this is talking about a person. It's talking about a group of people, a race of people who shine as bright as the morning. Now, how did this race of people, this group of people, fall from heaven? Excuse me, I have to get the door. Give me one moment. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So, how did this race of people, this group of people, fall from such a high state? Fall from a state of rulership and authority and wealth? Let's continue. How art thou cut down to the ground? How did they fall from heaven? Well, they fell from heaven because they were cut down to the ground. They were brought to the ground. They were brought from a place of rulership down to a place beneath rulership. Servitude, slavery, death, destruction. Let's continue reading. Which didst weaken the nations. So this man, this group of people, were such at a high state, had a high position, that they were able to weaken all the nations. And nations just means races. There are different races of people on the earth. But this one particular man, this one particular race of people, group of people, were in such a high state that they were able to have the power to weaken all these other nations. But they fell from that state of power. How did they get cut down to the ground? How did they get cut down from their position in heaven to a lower state? Verse 13. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. So this race of people, this group of people have said to their heart, which is not the muscle in your chest cavity, but your mind. Whenever you see hearts in the Bible, it's actually referring to a person's mind, how they think. So this group of people, this race of people, thought to themselves that they will ascend into heaven, that they will be brought, they will make themselves get to the position of authority, of rulership, of wealth, of being on top of all the other nations on earth. It says, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. That they will exalt their throne, their position, their kingdom, their rulership above something. Now, it's not talking about the stars that you see in the sky when the sun goes down, but the stars of God simply are God's chosen people, the Israelites, according to the Bible. And in 2018, the Israelites are called so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans, living all through North America. And since this is a Canada class, living in Canada, anywhere from people from El Salvador to Guatemala, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Haiti, people who moved from the United States to Canada or were originally descendants of slaves in Canada. That's who the stars of God is. So this race of people wanted to exalt themselves above the chosen people of God. And it says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. Now, whenever you see the word mount in the Bible, and it's talking about the mount of congregation or the mounts of this or the mounts of that, it's usually talking about the government, the ruling class, the society. So here it says, I will sit upon the mount of the congregation. So we know it's not talking about a mountain called congregation. It just said that I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, and the stars of God are the Israelites. Then it goes on to say, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. It's still talking about the stars of God. So here it's talking about how Lucifer, this race of people, this person, this man, will put themselves above the ruling class of Israel, above all the judges and priests and princes in the sides of the north. Now, Canada is in North America. The United States is in North America. So Lucifer, this race of people, this man, said that they will put themselves in a position above the chosen people of God in the sides of the north. And right here in North America, in Canada, in Quebec, in Ontario, in Ottawa, in Toronto, in Montreal, Lucifer has put themselves above so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans right here in the North America. Canada is in North America. Now you should start to think to yourself, well, who is this race of people called Lucifer? Who is this man called Lucifer that said they will put themselves above God's chosen people in the North, in North America, in Canada? And your mind should start to draw some conclusions. What race of people has put themselves to be above blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans? Trooper Sha'al, what's going on? Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Shakata. Right now we are on Isaiah chapter 14, verse 13. That's Isaiah chapter 14, verse 13. Okay. So we should probably be pinpointing at this moment which race of people has positioned themselves to be above Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans in North America, in Canada. Okay? Let's continue reading. It says, verse 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. What race of people strive to put airplanes in the air, in the sky? What race of people strive to have helicopters fly in the air, in the clouds? What race of people wanted to put a man on the moon, to explore the stars, the galaxy, the universe, space? If you don't know, this race of people that is referred to as Lucifer, that has fallen from heaven, that has fallen from such a high state, is the so-called white man, white woman, and the entire white race on the face of the earth. This is the man, this is the race of people that is referred to in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12 as Lucifer. Okay? And I'm gonna help you understand and solidify this information that you're learning right here. September 30th in 2018 at 8:32 p.m. The white race in its entirety is Lucifer, according to Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. Is the race that has weakened the nations since the time of the Greeks and Romans, and the French and the Germans and the Italians and the Spanish and the Portuguese and the Britons, and even right here in North America, the Canadians, New France, what it was called in a few centuries ago. Okay? Continuation on verse 14. It says, I will be like the Most High. Now, don't white people try to put themselves or equate themselves to the Most High power? Don't they think they have the ability to kill whenever they want? Aren't they trying to create life by cloning and DNA experimentation? Don't they think that they have ownership to the entire earth? Hell, the white people are even trying to explore space because they want to conquer space. And only the Most High God knows what's out there in space. No man on earth knows. Okay? Verse 15. Yet thou, again, this thou is talking about Lucifer. It's talking about the race of white people. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell. Now, again, let's not be Christians and Muslims and agnostics and all types of people who believe in hocus pocus, magic, sensory, and voodoo. Hell is not a burning fire that Dante wrote down in his, Dante's Inferno, the 7 layers of hell. Hell is simply just a state that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have been experiencing and living in for over 500 years. Slavery, poverty, second-class citizens, not being able to get the same equal rights as white people, not being able to get the same level of education as white people. That is hell. Being less than rulers. And also called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are rulers. The men are princes and priests. The women are princesses. You are royalty. But here in Canada, Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women are slaves, are servants, are less than what they are supposed to be. That is hell. Knowing that you are supposed to rule the earth, but you're reduced to being servants on the earth that you're supposed to rule. That's hell. Let's continue on verse 15. It says, to the sides of the pit. Now, a pit is something that's It's a hole that is dug up. Now, this pit is not a righteous pit. It's not something that receives any kind of merit or honor. It's just a regular hole in the ground. A pit is something that you fill with particular things and you cover back up because you do not care. Now, this race of people, Lucifer, white people, it says in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 15, that thou shalt be brought down to hell, that Lucifer shall lose his position of rulership and be brought to a position of hell, of slavery, of damnation, of suffering, misery, into the sides of the pit. And when they are killed and destroyed, their bodies will be thrown in a pit, covered up, and there will be no marker to mark their grave, because they will not be missed, they will not be remembered. They will be utterly destroyed. Okay. So, let's keep going. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, so, they that see thee, so all the people on the face of the earth that shall see the white race, Lucifer according to the Bible, Edomites according to the Bible, all the people shall look narrowly upon thee. They shall look closely and inspect you. Let's continue. And consider thee, saying, and they will think to themselves and then say, is this the man? So this is how we know that in verse 12, Lucifer is not referring to the angel Satan. It's referring to a man according to verse 16. In 16 it says, is this the man that made the earth to tremble? Is this the race of people that dropped bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? That dropped the bomb called Moab, mother of all bombs in the Middle East? That dropped bombs in the Middle East and destroyed hospitals, schools, places of worship? Is this the man that committed the first aerial terrorist attack on American soil, where they dropped bombs on a community and town of Black and Native American people? It was called Black Wall Street. Is this the man that dropped bombs on Black and Native American people living in peace and thriving, that did shake the kingdoms? Did the white race not go into African countries and shake the kingdoms and change them? Did the white race not go into the Middle East and make deals with the people in the Middle East and made them change their ways and how they conducted themselves? Did the white man not go into China and Japan and made the Chinese and Japanese not dress in their own cultural garments, but instead dress up in suits and ties to be businessmen? Yes, the white race, biblically called Edomites, did make the earth to tremble, and they did shake the kingdoms. And according to verse 16, they are the man that is being referred to in verse 12, where it says, O Lucifer. Okay? So here we're starting to establish that Lucifer is not the devil, is not Satan, but Lucifer is a man according to verse 16. And there's only one man that has done everything that is listed here, which is the so-called white race, whose biblical name would be Edom. Okay? So from here, we're going to move on to the book of Job. And we're going to start on chapter 12, verse 6. The book of Job, chapter 12, verse 6. I'm going to give you a few moments to get there. Job, chapter 12, verse 6. Okay? All right. I'm going to read Job chapter 12, verse 6. It says, the tabernacles of robbers prosper. So the tents, the places where these people live, where robbers prosper, the houses, the homes, the kingdoms of robbers, like the so-called white race, who rob the culture of Negroes, who rob the culture of Hispanics, who rob the culture of Native Americans, who are the real Jews according to the Bible. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. I have a bit of a cold. Forgive me. So their houses, the houses of white people, of Edomites, they prosper because robbers normally steal valuable things. And they're allowed to keep robbing and raping and stealing and taking our identity, taking our culture. Right here in 2018, white people are the biggest culture vultures. They're such swagger jackers. You know, if Black, Hispanic, and Native American people have braids, white people want braids. If Black, Hispanic, and Native American people walk around with their right side of their jeans rolled up and their left side of the jeans tucked into their Jordans or Timbs, white people want to do the same thing. If Black, Hispanic, and Native American people want to talk with a slang and say, what's up, dog? How you doing? What's popping? What's goody? White people want to do the same thing. They want to rob our identity. They want to rob our culture. They want to rob everything that we do, create, and stand for. And they're allowed to prosper. They're allowed to succeed. They're allowed to take our culture and make money. Millions and billions off of hip-hop music. Millions and billions off of rap music. Millions and billions over rock and roll and jazz and the blues, and then claim that it was originally theirs. I would not be surprised that in 10 years, 15 years, white people will start to say that they created hip-hop and R&B and rap. Okay? Let's continue. And they that provoke God. They that provoke God. Now, hopefully you all know what provoke means. But if you don't, provoke simply means to stimulate or give rise to gain a reaction or an emotion, more commonly referred to as something that's strong, a strong emotion, getting a strong rise out of someone, or an unwelcome one. For example, like to arouse or evoke or produce or call forth. They provoke God. White people provoke God every single day. They provoke God by stealing the culture and identity of Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans. They provoke God by having Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans as slaves for over 400, 500 years. They provoke God by murdering Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women who are unarmed, unrighteously, unjustly, and still get away with it. And they that provoke God are secure. And they are okay. They are secure. When a white police officer in Canada shoots an unarmed, emotionally disturbed, mentally distressed Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman in Toronto or in Montreal or in Ontario or in Quebec, they are secure because they know they're not going to get fired. They know that more than likely nothing bad will happen to them. And it says, into whose hand God bringeth abundantly. Now, God is allowing the white race to prosper. God is allowing for them to be secure. Because just like Pharaoh in Exodus 8 and Exodus 9, Pharaoh's heart was allowed to be hardened because the Most High made it hardened. He wanted Pharaoh to harden his heart so that way he can show more miracles to the Israelites that were enslaved by Pharaoh and the Egyptians. He wanted to show his great power to the Egyptians and their Pharaoh and all their gods and how their gods were nothing. So God is allowing white people to be secure and to prosper. God is bringing all these things abundantly to them, only to be able to show them that he will bring them down, that they are nothing. Just like Pharaoh was nothing, the white race will realize that they are nothing. Verse 7. But ask now the beast. We can go all over the world and we can ask gorillas like Hammurabi. Actually, we cannot ask Hammurabi, the gorilla, because Hammurabi, the gorilla, was enslaved in a zoo and he was killed by white people in a zoo. We can go and ask lions, like Sisu the lion. Actually, we cannot ask Sisu the lion because Sisu the lion was gunned down by a goddamn white dentist from New Jersey. Sisu the lion can't talk. But ask now the beast, and they shall teach thee. If Hammurabi the gorilla that was gunned down in a zoo, enslaved in a zoo, if he was alive and he could speak, he would teach you that the white man is the devil, that the white race is diabolical, vile, wicked, disgusting, and needs to be put to death. If Sisu the lion that lived in Africa wasn't gunned down by a white dentist from New Jersey, Sisu the lion would also tell you that the white man, woman, and child is the devil on the face of the earth, and they deserve to be cut down to the ground. They deserve to be brought down to hell. It says, and the fowls of the air. Now, if the dodo bird were still alive, we could probably ask the dodo bird on who they think the devil is according to the Bible, on what race of people they think deserves death and destruction. If passenger pigeons, there was a particular species of pigeons that thrived all over North America. I believe it was the passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeons. Let me just verify that. Yes, I was right. It is the passenger pigeon. If the passenger pigeons were still alive in North America today, you could simply just ask them who they thought the devil was, or what they thought about the race of white people as a whole. But as the scripture says, and they shall teach thee. Dodo birds are extinct. You can't ask a dodo bird on who they think the devil is. If they could, if they were still alive, if you were able to somehow resurrect one, they would tell you that the white man, woman, and child is the devil on the face of the earth, deserves death and destruction for causing the race of dodo birds, a species of birds, to be extinct. If the passenger pigeon was still alive in 2018, or if you can resurrect one from the dead and ask them, they would tell you that so-called white man, woman, and child is the race of devils, and they deserve death and destruction for causing the passenger pigeon to go into extinction. Okay? Let's go to verse 8. Or speak to the earth. If the earth that we live on could speak, and it shall teach thee. The earth would tell us that the white race is the race of devils, that the white race needs to die and suffer death and destruction because of all the fracking that goes on, because of all the natural resources that get sucked up out of the earth to benefit white people. That they will tell you how the earth gets polluted by oil and contamination due to white people. They would tell you that the white man, woman, and child is the race of Lucifer and deserves death and destruction for creating landfills and dumping waste all over the earth and burying it. And verse 9, to continue with verse 8. And the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Now, if turtles could talk, they would tell you how they got their heads stuck in a plastic ring of beers. If fishes could talk, they would tell you why their stomach is filled with tiny pieces of plastic. If all types of animals that lived in the sea could talk, they would tell you why the ocean is becoming an island of garbage, waste, and plastic that floats. And they shall declare unto thee that the white man is the damn devil the Bible speaks of. According to the Bible, Edomites are the so-called white people today walking around Canada, Quebec, Ontario, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto in 2018. They are Lucifer according to Isaiah chapter 14. Okay? Now let's drop this here and let's go to chapter 9. Job chapter 9. I will give you a few more moments to get there. Job chapter 9. Give you 30 more seconds. Okay. Job chapter 9. Verse 24. It says, the earth, the planet that we walk on, the earth, Canada is on the earth. The earth is given into the hand. The earth is placed into the hand, is allowed to be taken. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Who is causing pollution all across the earth? If it's not the white man, then someone please tell me who. Who has gone into different countries throughout history and raped, killed, robbed, and stolen the kingdoms and precious stones and jewels and cultures of other races? If it's not the white race, then someone please tell me. Who has created religions that allow the leaders of these religions to rape, molest, and sexually assault children, boys, and girls? If it's not the white race with the Catholic Church and Christianity, then I don't know who it is. The white race is the wicked. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked white race. Edomites, according to the Bible. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Now, according to the Bible, the Israelites, according to the Bible, the judges of the Bible were blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Moses was a black man. Joseph, that was second of all of Egypt, was a black man, specifically a so-called Hispanic today. Paul, Peter were black men. King David was a black man. King Solomon was a black man. There's a precept in the Bible that talks about King Solomon and how he describes himself. He says, I am black, and comely. Now, if you know what the word comely means, it simply is a word to describe beauty, how handsome he was. So King David called himself black and beautiful. King David called himself what Negroes and Hispanics and Native Americans call themselves today. Black and handsome. Black and beautiful. I'm chocolate and good looking. I'm caramel and gorgeous. This is what King Solomon called himself. Now here, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. The white race has made Moses in the Bible a white man. A white man plays Moses in the Ten Commandments, an old film. The white man has made statues of King David to resemble a white man. The white man has made the greatest black man to ever walk the face of the earth, Yahushua Mashiach, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, to be a white man. Paints him as a white homosexual with dog-like stringy hair, a shaven face with blonde hair, light brown hair, green eyes, blue eyes. When the Bible, according to the book of Revelations, chapter 1, Christ was a black man. Christ had eyes that were red because he drank wine. Christ had hair on his head and hairs on his face to be the color white, not brown or blonde like they depict Jesus Christ in images today. It says that Christ's hair was like wool. Now, if you ever seen a sheep or was able to pet a sheep at a petting zoo or at a circus, you would know that the texture of wool is very, very rough. It's a very dense texture. You know, it's perfect for braiding hair because it will stay in braids longer than white people hair. It's perfect for flattening out and making straight because it will stay that way longer than white people hair. It has a greater thickness to it. It has more volume to it. If you put it up in curls, it would bounce more and stay in position longer than white people hair. So, to continue verse 24, if it's not the white race, then where can I find this race of people who is wicked? Where can I find this race of people who was given the earth and is wicked? Who is this race of people if not for white people? What race of people is wicked? What race of people is ruling the earth, is ruling Toronto, is ruling Montreal, is ruling Quebec? What race of people is ruling Canada? What race of people colonized Canada? What race of people owned slaves in Canada? What race of people created a system of governance that benefited them only in Canada? If it's not white people, then I don't know who it is. Okay? Now here we're going to drop the book of Job, and we're going to get into the book of Obadiah. And we're going to stay in the book of Obadiah for quite some time. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a few moments to find the book of Obadiah. All right? Go ahead, take that time now. The book of Obadiah, there's only one chapter. So go ahead and find it. If you have any questions on what we have been discussing and going over, please type them in. If you have any questions of what we have gone over or what we are going over, please type them in and ask your questions. Okay? So, the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Now, Obadiah was a priest and prophet of the Most High God. All right? And Obadiah was having a vision, was having a prophecy, something that will come to pass. Thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. So in this vision of Obadiah, Obadiah had a vision of what the Most High Power, what the Most High God said in regards to Edom, to the Edomites, to white people all across Canada and the earth. It says, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, from the Most High. So there's a rumor going around that is being spread throughout the entire earth about Edom. There is a rumor going on that the Most High God is allowing to flow through the ears and mouths and through the ears again of all the people on earth. Okay? Let's continue. And an ambassador. Now, an ambassador is someone who helps broker peace. It's someone that helps speaks on behalf of a particular country or nation. All right? Now, to get the accurate definition, an ambassador is an accredited diplomat sent by a country as its official representative to a foreign country. Just like we have American diplomats in Canada, Canada has American diplomats in America, the United Nations. Just like America has diplomats in the Middle East, or Canada has diplomats in France. These are ambassadors that represent a country. They are the official representative of that country. Now it says, an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Now, heathen is just a word to describe all races that are not Israelites. So this includes white people, Asian people, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Taiwanese. This includes Africans, people from Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, Somalia, Nigeria. I said Nigeria already. The Ivory Coast, Senegal, the Congo Republic, South Africa. This includes the Arabs living in Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, okay? And this includes white people, Edomites, living in Canada, right there in your city, whether it be right there in your city, whether a town or stateship or parish, whether it be Quebec, whether it be Ontario, whether it be Montreal or Toronto. These are the heathens. An ambassador has been sent forth with this room. There's a rumor that they have been sent forth to the heathens. And it says, arise ye. All you heathens, rise up. Rise up. We all know how bad the white race has destroyed your people, has enslaved your people, has oppressed your people, has robbed your people, has cheated your people. We all know how Christian Germans and Protestant Germans treated the Jewish Germans. We all know how the French were treated by the Germans, were treated by the Italians. We all know the problems and war that the Russians were involved with the Americans. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. So the Asians will rise up against white people in America, in Canada, in Russia, and will go to battle against them. We all know how the Arabs have already risen up against white people who have been bombing their schools and hospitals and killing innocent people by the thousands and millions. Like, for example, 9/11, where the Twin Towers were struck and fell down, only a few thousand people were killed as a result of that. But because the Twin Towers fell, millions, hundreds of thousands of Arabs in the Middle East have suffered. We all know how Africans suffered at the hands of white people. South Africa had an apartheid for years, you know? So this is telling all the heathen nations to rise up against Edom, against white people. And you know what? It's also saying for white people to rise up against other white people. Have we not been seeing in the news lately how Russia and America has been beefing with one another? Did not World War I Didn't World War I be fought by white races, white countries? Wasn't World War II fought by white races and white countries? Wasn't the American Civil War fought by white people? Wasn't the Revolutionary War fought by white people? Did not the French and Indian War was fought by French people and American people here along the sides of Indians on both sides? White people have started the majority of wars on the face of the earth. They kill each other in the most insane amounts. Okay? Verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. The Lord had made the race of white people to be small in population when compared to the Africans. The Lord made white people to be small in population when compared to the Arabs. The Lord had made the population of white people to be small and compared to the Asians. The Asians are like in the billions. And the Lord made the white race to be small in comparison to his chosen people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Thou art greatly despised. Every single race of people on the face of this earth hate white people. The Chinese hate white people for invading and colonizing and industrializing China and making the Chinese opium addicts. The Japanese secretly hate white people for dropping bombs on civilians in cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Africans hate white people for kicking them off their land in Africa and creating an apartheid. White people hate other white people. Like white Jewish people hate white German Christians for the Holocaust. It's very simple. White people hate other white people. Verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. The pride of thy heart hath deceived thee. Now we're going to get into this because the pride that white people have in Canada has deceived their minds. And I have an article that I would like to share with you that I'm going to post into the chat on both YouTube and Facebook. This is the link for an article that I found in Canada that I think best represents the pride of the heart. Okay? And I'm going to read some of this. It's an article from the Walrus from Canada. The article is called Canadian Education is Steeped in Anti-Black Racism. All right? And there's a little excerpt, a little quote from the article. It says, for many Black youth, schools can be a place of degradation, harm, and psychological violence. Now, I'm going to tell you about this pride of this white race, especially in Canada. The article says, on September 30th, 2016, the mother of a Black grade 1 student, so the mother of a Black student in grade 1 missed several calls from her daughter's school in Mississauga, a suburb of Toronto. So in the suburb of Toronto, a school in Mississauga called the mother of a Black student several times. When she called back, a school official passed the phone to a police officer. So there was a police officer in this school, and the school official who picked up the phone passed the phone over to a police officer. This police officer informed the mother that her 6-year-old daughter, her 6-year-old Black daughter, had been placed in handcuffs. Now, I really cannot fathom many reasons why a child, a 6-year-old child, should be placed or would be placed in handcuffs. The article continues to say, upon arriving at the school, the mother of this Black student, this Black girl, learned that the police had been called. So the police were called to this young girl's school, who was only 6 years old. This Black 6-year-old girl, who was a grade 1 student, had police called on her. The police had been called in by the school staff because the daughter had been reportedly acting in violent manner. They're saying that this 6-year-old student, this Black little girl, who's only 6 years old, had to have had the police called and come to her school because this little 6-year-old girl, this little Black 6-year-old girl, was reportedly acting in a violent manner. Now, the two police officers, Shalom Yashmata, drive safe, sir. This girl, there's two police officers said that they had to handcuff this Black 6-year-old girl who weighed 48 pounds. Now, I don't know about you, but I just finished my first day of Hebrew Academy. And 48 pounds ain't ain't nothing. This little child, this little princess, this black princess who's only 6 years old, who only weighs 48 pounds and was unarmed. She was handcuffed by attaching her hands and her feet together. Her hands and her feet were chained together, were chained at the wrist and ankles. If you would like a demonstration, although I'm sore, I will show you. Imagine your foot. Let's see if you can see this. Hopefully you can see this. Let's get it. Your foot. Imagine your foot and your wrist being chained together. Not just your right and your right foot chained together, but your left foot and your left wrist chained together. This poor girl was chained like this, like an animal, like a savage, like a beast waiting to be killed. That is how these police officers had this beautiful princess. They had her chained like this. Hold on one second. Trying to get the Facebook back up. Salakia. The police have been called in by the school staff because let's see if I can get this back up on the Facebook. Salakia to everyone on Facebook. Salakia. God damn. What happened here? Jeez. Hold on one second. Salakia. Salakia for that. Something happened. I clicked the wrong button by accident. So this little girl had her wrists chained, handcuffed to her ankles, to her feet. Like an animal. She only weighed 48 pounds. She was only 6 years old. How violent can a 6-year-old be to be worthy of being chained like a dog, like an animal? Now, this is how prideful white people are. They're so prideful that they think it is okay to chain a little girl by her ankles and her wrists together. They think nothing could happen to them. Nothing will come of them chaining a beautiful black princess by her ankles and wrists together. Okay? Let's get more on this. According to the Toronto Star, while the girl's mother said that her daughter had been treated like a dog because her daughter was treated like a dog, these police officers who are white, and I'll get to that in a moment, these white police officers had so much pride that they thought that they were better than a black child, that they would never, ever handcuff a white child like this, like they did to this poor white girl. They had so much pride in their heart. Their pride deceived their mind. They thought nothing bad would happen to them. It says, according to the Toronto Star, while the girl's mother said that her daughter had been treated like a dog or a monster, which is true, these white police officers were so prideful that they thought that they were better than this black child. They handcuffed this black child like a dog, like if she was a monster. And not a human child. Peel Regional Police spokesperson Sergeant Josh Coley, a white sergeant from Peel Regional Police, the spokesperson, Sergeant Josh Coley, defended the fact that a young black child had been handcuffed. So this white police officer said that it was okay for this child to be handcuffed like an animal. That it was okay for this black 6-year-old child, this black little girl who only weighed 48 pounds, that it was okay and appropriate for her to be handcuffed in such a inhumane manner, in such a animalistic manner, as if she was worthless. Okay? Sergeant Josh Coley defended the fact that a young black child had been handcuffed by stating that it had been done for the safety of other students and ultimately the child. Do you mean to tell me that teachers and school officials didn't have the authority or the power to restrain a 6-year-old black girl who only weighed 48 pounds? Not even 50 pounds. 48 pounds. They couldn't put her, they couldn't have control over her. They couldn't make her act appropriately. They couldn't they couldn't put to a cease and stop and desist of her actions. But the cops had to handcuff her like an animal. They had to handcuff one wrist to one ankle and the other wrist to the other ankle, like a dog. You know, back in ancient times when we would go hunting for animals, we would tie up a deer by its 2 front legs and by its 2 back legs and hang it on a stick while we walk back to our village or tent or congregation. That's exactly what they did to this girl, minus the stick. They handcuffed her like an animal. They had so much pride that they didn't care that she was a human child. They treated this poor black little 6-year-old girl who only weighed 48 pounds like a dog. Okay? School officials issued no immediate apology. The school officials didn't even give an apology, an immediate apology. And Sergeant Cooley told the media that it was disgusting. Now, if you were to find out that a child was handcuffed by their wrists and ankles, regardless of the race of the child, reasonably, a person would think, wow, that was very wrong. They didn't have to treat a child like that. They didn't have to handcuff the child like that. That was very wrong. Something was not followed. Something was not done right to have a child handcuffed wrists to ankles like an animal. But this happened to not just any random child. This happened to a black little girl who was only 6 years old, who only weighed 48 pounds. It happened to her. And this sergeant, this white sergeant, said that it was disgusting that the behavior of the 2 white police officers to arrest and handcuff this little girl by her wrists and ankles, could be construed as racist. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read throughout history, whether it's in America or Canada, I read about all the ways that so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American people were chained together, were chained upside down, were chained to walls, were even today in the prison system. Don't prisoners, when they're being escorted to places, have handcuffs on their wrist, handcuffs on their legs, and there's another chain connected to this handcuff that connects to the handcuff on their feet? Yes, they do. So this little girl was handcuffed in the same exact manner. And this white sergeant, Sergeant Cooley of Canada, said that anyone who thought that arresting this little girl and handcuffing her in this way, it was disgusting if you thought this was racist. Well, I haven't seen any white children in Canada being handcuffed in such a manner. Have you? I haven't seen white children in America be handcuffed in such a manner at the age of 6, who only weighed 48 pounds. But in Canada, on September 30th, 2 years ago, 2016, a Black little girl, the age of 6, who only weighed 48 pounds, was handcuffed like an animal, was put in restraints like an animal. And the police officer said that if anyone thought this act was racist, that thought that the white police officers who handcuffed this Black little girl in such a manner was racist, that it was disgusting. It was disgusting to think that it was racist to arrest this little poor Black 6-year-old girl who only weighed 48 pounds. Completely disgusting. That is how the pride of the white man's heart has deceived him. He thinks that there's nothing wrong. He thinks that he didn't do anything wrong by arresting this little girl, this little Black 6-year-old girl, in such a manner. He did nothing wrong, and that nothing would happen to him. And he got further support by their sergeant. As Sergeant Cooley, a white sergeant from Canada, said, anyone who thinks that this was racist, this is disgusting if you thought it was racist. Let's continue. The family's lawyer, however, alongside the African Canadian Legal Clinic, went on to file complaints against both the school and the police for anti-Black racism. You know why this family did this? Because there aren't any white children being chained like animals. But there are Black, Hispanic, and Native American children being chained and handcuffed and arrested and treated like animals by white police officers. Let's continue. It is difficult to imagine how any child weighing 48 pounds could be thought to pose such a danger to anyone. I honestly can't think how a 48-pound-year-old 6 little girl could pose any danger to me, let alone in the presence of school officials and 2 police officers, in the presence of a multitude of adults, in the presence of many adults. How can this little girl be any type of threat or danger to these adults? Only by attending to the ongoing governing power of anti-Blackness can we make sense of how 2 armed men could decide to handcuff an unarmed child in the name of safety. They had to handcuff the child in the name of safety. What this incident illustrates is the pride of the white man has deceived their hearts, like it says in the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. White people's pride have deceived them to think that they are indestructible and can never do nothing wrong and nothing bad could happen, that they can do whatever they want, like arrest and chain up black little girls like animals, and nothing wrong could happen. Because they will only be supported by their constituents and leaders. It says, what this incident illustrates is that in the eyes of white society and state institutions, black children are not conceived of as children at all. It says that black children aren't even looked at as children. Black children are not even given the thought of being seen as children. And supernatural, dangerous abilities far above their age, size, and physical capabilities are attributed to them. So basically, black children aren't seen as regular children. They're looked at as if they have supernatural powers. They're looked at as if black children are looked at as if they have dangerous abilities that are far beyond their age. As if a 6-year-old girl can lift up an elephant and throw her 1,000 yards. Black children are looked at as if their size and physical capabilities are attributed to them. That although they're small, that they can do things far above what their size will give away. I have never seen a black little girl have any supernatural powers, have any dangerous abilities. I haven't seen not one black telekinesis, not one pyrokinesis, not one black little girl that can levitate, not one black little girl that has super strength like the Hulk and Captain America or Captain Marvel. I have not seen a little black girl that can grow big and huge like the Ant-Man. None of that. When I see a little black child, I see a black child. I see a little child. But according to white society in Canada, they have so much pride in their heart that they are deceived and they think that black children are not children and that they are some little monster, some little animal that possesses supernatural abilities and should be on the show Mythbusters. Should have their own superhero show. That black children are mutants and belong on the X-Men and need to be dealt with. Or the X-Force, I think that's a Canadian thing. The X-Force should be treated as criminals and dangerous. All right, let's get back to the scriptures. Let's see who's joined us. Okay. Tanya Waterman is still with us. Salakia, Facebook, I accidentally pressed the button that ended the live feed. I don't know what happened. It just stopped working. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 3. Though thou dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks, whose habitation is high. Now, when we look back in the history of white people, we know that they are called Caucasians, that they like to identify themselves as Caucasians. And there's only one place on earth that has a similar resemblance to their name. It's called the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, Russia, where they are known as cave dwellers, because that is what Caucasians mean. That's what the word Caucasian means. It means cave dweller. And back in ancient times, Caucasians, white people, Edomites, they lived in the mountains. They lived on the cliffs of the rocks. They lived in caves, and their habitation was high. These mountains, have you ever looked at a picture of the Caucasus Mountains? They're huge mountains, like Mount Everest and the Himalaya Mountains, like the Rocky Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains. These mountains are high. White people are used to living in high places. That's why all here in America, like New York City, they're skyscrapers. In Canada, they're skyscrapers. They're tall buildings where white people like to live. They make these buildings out of stone because the mountains that they lived in, the caves that they lived in, were made of stone. They make them high because in their spirit, they are accustomed and they feel most comfortable and at home when they live high in the air. Let's go to verse 4. Okay? Verse 4. Now, verse 4, Obadiah chapter 1, verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, although thou exalt thyself as the eagle, when we go back in history, what did the Romans use as their standard? What was their symbol? It was the eagle. What did the Germans use as their symbol? They used an eagle. What did the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the British use? They used an eagle. Albanians use a double-headed eagle. America uses an eagle. In Canada, you have the golden eagle. An eagle is a bird, a predator bird that flies high in the air and stalks its prey and preys on things below it. White people in Canada and all over the earth view themselves and exalt themselves as the eagle. They look at themselves as high and mighty, and they look down at all the other nations and races because they are its prey. And white people prey on every other race of people on the face of the earth. Okay? And though thou set thy nest among the stars, what race of people wanted to put a man on the moon? White people. What race of people decided to have a space race, a space war, to see who can put a satellite in space, to see who can put a rocket ship first in space, to see who can put a spacecraft in space, to see who can build a space station, can explore space? It's white people. They have been doing it since the 70s. And now white people want to make a space force, and militarized group of people to provide security and military force in space. Why? For what purpose? What purpose would you need a space force? Why would you want a militarized group of people in space when wars are being fought right here on Earth? That's because the white man is the devil, and the white man has read these scriptures, and the white man knows that Yahawashi will return, that Jesus Christ will return and crack the sky open with 200 million angels. And he knows that God hates him. So he needs to try to create some type of force to fight against Yahawashi Christ and the angels. But they will lose. Thence will I bring thee down. No matter how high or how mighty white people like to exalt themselves, the Most High God will always bring you down to the ground. He will cause your destruction, and you will be brought from that heavenly state, that state of rulership, of wealth. Okay? Verse 5. If thieves came to thee, if you ever been a victim of a thief, if a thief victimized you, a thief normally took a particular thing that they wanted. If robbers by night, if you have ever been a victim of robbers, if your house has ever been burglarized, would they not have stolen till they had enough? Would a thief take only the things that they want? Yes, they would. Would robbers only take and steal what they wanted? Yes. A robber comes into your house at night, they want to take your big screen TV, your expensive shoes, your jewelry, any silver or expensive china or silverware. They want all these things from you. Okay? So, if grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? All this is simply saying is that white people, when they steal something, they're not satisfied with just stealing one thing. White people weren't satisfied with stealing our culture and identity. They wanted to steal our land. They wanted to take us into slavery. They wanted to say that they were the real Jews of the Bible. They wanted to take our language and say it was theirs and bastardize it. They wanted to white people would go into your home and steal the wallpaper off of your walls. White people will go into your house and rob it and steal the ceramic tiles off of your bathroom floors. White people are such thieves and robbers that they will steal your house and steal the cockroaches and daddy long legs that live in your house and say that it is theirs. That's how diabolical white people are. They will steal everything from you, and leave absolutely nothing. Let's go down to verse 8. Verse 8. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord? There's going to be a day where the white race will be destroyed. That the white race will suffer will suffer because of all the things they have done to the chosen people of God, to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Okay? Even destroy the wise men out of Edom. So all the Canadian scientists, governors, politicians, prime ministers, law enforcement, wealthy businessmen and landowners and technology specialists, all of them will be destroyed. There will be no wise men to live amongst the race of white people when the Lord sends YAHANNA back. And there will be no understanding out of the mount of Esau. There will be no understanding. There will be no wisdom or knowledge in Esau, in the white race. Verse 9. And the mighty men of Teman. Teman was part of Esau's kingdom. Okay? To get you a better understanding. Teman was the name of an Edomite clan. So Teman is a specific clan, a specific tribe of white people. The mighty men of this particular white people shall be dismayed, shall be confused when YAHANNA comes back with his superior military might. They would be distraught when Yahushua returns with his military might. They will not know what to do. They will be in such a state of calamity that they will have nothing else but to give up and die. To the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. And because all the mighty men, the Navy, Marines, Air Force, whatever type of military might Canada has, law enforcement Canada has, when Yahushua returns, your mighty men will not stand a chance against Yahushua and the angels. They would be utterly struck with fear. And because of that, all of you white people, all of you white citizens of Canada, you will be cut off by slaughter. Thus saith the Lord, according to Obadiah chapter 1, verse 9. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Didn't French Canadians enslave the indigenous people of Canada? Yes, they did. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. From the 1600s to the 1800s, didn't Canadians deal, French Canadians deal in slavery, buying, selling, and trading African Americans, Negroes, indigenous Native Americans? Yes, they did. Did they not lynch them, kill them, burn them at the stake, hunt them down, sick dogs on them to tear them apart, tie ropes to their limbs and have horses pull them in the opposite direction? Yes, white Canadians did take part in such violence against thy brother Jacob. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. You will be humiliated when Christ returns. You will be embarrassed when Christ returns. You shall feel shame when Christ returns. You shall feel sorrow when Christ returns. You will be shown no mercy when Christ returns. And thou shalt be cut off forever, and you will never be forgiven. You will never be given repentance. You will never be able to gain salvation. You will be cut off forever. You will be cut off by slaughter. All the so-called white people in Canada, you will be cut off forever. Let's see what else we got. Let's go down to verse 13. Verse 13. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 13. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people. White people should never have gone into the kingdom or the strongholds of Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. You should never have entered into their congregation, their places of worship, into their cities. You should have never gone past their gate. A gate is something that is used to protect people, men of war, mighty men of valor are the gates of the people of Israel. White people, Edomites, should have never entered the gates of thy people, should never walked through the protection of the people of Israel in the day of their calamity. Now we're suffering calamity. We're being distressed. So our gates are weakened. Our gates are not up. Our mighty men of valor are either fighting or have been killed or injured. White people should have never taken advantage of that and decide to enter into our gates, into our kingdom, into our cities and towns. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity. You should not have stood by and watched us suffer. If anything, as Jacob's brother Esau, you should have helped us against all these other nations. You should have been the ones to come to our aid, to help render aid and protect us and help us fight back against the Arabs and the Africans and the East Indians and the Asians. But you decided to look upon our affliction. You decided to look at our pain and suffering and do nothing but take part of our pain and suffering, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. And what you did was you took what was ours. When we were being taken away as slaves, you took what was ours. When we were having our cities and houses and towns burned, you laid hands on our substance. You decided to take what was ours, our records, our language, our culture, our dress code. You took everything from us when we were suffering. Neither shouldest thou, verse 14, neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway. Now, a crossway, if you don't know, I'll get it for you. Verse 14 says, neither should thou have stood in the crossway. A crossway is a path that intersect, that lead to places. You should have not stood in our path. You should not, we're suffering all this great atrocities and calamity, and instead of allowing us to flee, you stood in our crossway. You stood in our path to cut off those of his that did escape. You decided to hunt us down and kill us as we tried to flee Jerusalem in 70 AD. You hunted us down and killed us when we tried to flee slavery in Canada in the 1600s, in the 1700s, in the 1800s. You decided to hunt us down, stay and lurk and creep and wait diligently for us to come by, to hunt us, to kill us, to take us back into slavery. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. You should have delivered us to those that were making us suffer, like yourselves. Verse 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen, for the righteous and rightful punishment that the Most High God will give unto all the heathen nations for all their crimes against the nation of Israel is coming real soon. The Lord will visit you and repay you for all the destruction you put on his children, on his chosen race of people, the Israelites. As thou hast done, Esau, white people, just as you have done to the children of God, it shall be done unto thee. You had us in slavery, white people. You will be enslaved. You separated our families, white people. Your fathers and daughters and mothers and sons will be separated from each other. Just like you had us in chains and made us wear masks made of iron and metal, you shall be made to wear chains and masks and iron made of iron and metal. Thy reward. Your reward was taking our culture. Your reward was benefiting off of our slavery and misery. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. So you will be enslaved. You would suffer. You will be chained and have your family separated, have your wives, have your pregnant wives' bellies cut open. All the things that you did to us, that you benefited from, we will benefit from you in righteousness. Verse 17. But upon the Mount Zion is the government of Israel, the ruling class of Israel, the people of Israel. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance. Black Hispanics and Native Americans all throughout Canada will be saved, will be redeemed, will be rescued, will have salvation when Christ returns. And the house of Joseph and there shall be holiness. So there will be no more abominations taking part on the earth when the Israelites are ruling again. Every single race of people will obey the laws, statutes, and commandments, or you will die. There will be no more Asian people eating cat, rat, and dog. There'll be no more Africans drinking blood soup and blowing in the rectums of cows and putting cow piss on their heads. There'll be no more white people killing unrighteously. Everything will be obeying in obedience to the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments. And the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. And Israel shall take everything that belongs to all the heathen nations, their lands, their gold, their jewelry, their castles, their houses, everything. And you white people, we will take everything from you as well. Okay? Now to end this with the last verse, verse 21. And saviors. Now we all should know what a savior does. A savior saves people. A savior rescues people. Because if someone needs a savior, that means that they're in a state of distress. They're experiencing hell. They need help. Saviors shall come up on Mount Zion. So there shall be men of Israel who shall be chosen to be saviors, who will be brought on to the top of the nation of Israel to be rulers and righteous judges. And saviors shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau. And these righteous men will judge every single person of Esau. We will judge all you so-called white people for all the crimes you have done. And the kingdom shall be the Lord's. And once again, forevermore, the kingdom of the Lord on earth shall be returned back to him. Everyone will be obeying the Lord's statutes and commandments. All Israelites will be subject to the law again to follow. All right, Canada has been real. I'm going to read the security announcements. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Our rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to that brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. It can be found in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. It means tenth in the Hebrew, or ma'ashera. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you must give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest funds are a free will offering for the priest. Although they are not mandatory, you may give whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations will be the Feast of Dedication, or HaKanukah, on December 1st. Make sure to check the bulletin board or go on ISUPK.com for any upcoming events, lectures, or high holy days and feast days. Now, any Akim, any brother that wants to be a trooper in the school, you must start to wear all black boots, shirts, scarves, headbands. And with that, Shalom, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Barakatam, to all the brothers, and to the sisters, Yahweh Shemar Alatah Ba'ashem Yahushai. Shalom, Israel.